It's coming up to 1:07. You are listening to UGFM. I'm Michelle Starstra, and I've got Nadine Champion on the line. Nadine, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Absolute pleasure. 10 seconds of courage, how to recognise and embrace those life-changing moments. You've had such an interesting life, haven't you, so far?
Oh, I don't see it that way, but apparently other people do. A few things have happened like anyone else.
So tell us a little bit about yourself for those who haven't had the pleasure so far of reading your book.
Well, I'm a martial artist, so I've been doing martial arts for the last 30 years. And I use my martial arts skills to become a competitive kickboxer and do all kinds of sort of athletic-y things. But I love telling the story of how I found my martial arts teacher, and I always remind people of the Karate Kid movie from back in the olden days with Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san, and it's a real classic film, and I grew up watching that and was very, very lucky to find a similar sort of a teacher myself. So he's given me a lifelong journey through some quite intense lessons that I've used in an educational sense, in a professional sense, and also to get me through my battle with cancer.
And I think that movie inspired a lot of us. I mean, I remember seeing that when I was younger as well, and it's I've never ever forgotten it. It was a very powerful movie, and like, I'm not into martial arts at all, but I think it was the way Mr. Miyagi taught, wasn't it? I mean, he guided people. He didn't tell people what to do, which is what you found as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that was the beautiful thing about it, and I've been very lucky. My own teacher was similar to me. He said, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, I'm just going to give you some tools and you can choose to use them. And that was sort of what I've done as well. I've just released my book, and it tells the story of all the lessons that I was so lucky to learn from a really good teacher, and I'm just passing them along as well. I'm not acting like I'm some kind of wise monk who gets it all right and is full of sage advice. I'm just telling the story of, living a normal life where, you make mistakes and you learn things the hard way sometimes, and, you learn to get back up when you've been knocked down. So I was very lucky in that I did have someone to teach me along those lines, and, I'm a professional speaker these days, and I get to go and speak at all these companies. And I often ask people, to raise their hand if they have someone like that in their lives, a Mr. Miyagi or a mentor who's in their corner, who's helping them to better themselves in their lives. And it's amazing the amount of people who don't have someone in their life like that, but who would like one. So that's what I've tried to sort of provide, in the book, in that not everybody can find somebody like that, but at least I can share what I learnt from mine.
And what are some of the, I've marked a couple of things in your book that I found were just really key things, but for you, what were some of the key things that you learnt?
Probably one of the main ones was this idea of changing your thinking. There's some stories in the book, and also a story that I tell in the YouTube video. I did a TEDx talk at the Sydney Opera House a few years ago explaining this 10 seconds of courage idea, and I tell a story about how I was in a really difficult situation in my martial arts training that was quite symbolic of, I think, what happens to a lot of us in life when we can't control the circumstances that are happening to us. Bad things happen, or we're in a difficult, challenging situation. And Sensei Benny taught me that the only thing that you can really control often is your own reaction to a situation, your response to it. And in order to change your response, you have to change your thinking. So when you can't control the external circumstances, what you can control is how you react to it internally. And that's had a really profound effect on how I deal with all kinds of challenges in my life. And probably the other big one is the title of the 10 Seconds of Courage. And the principle behind that is how important it is to have a little burst of courage within yourself, and it stops you from getting stuck. So the 10 seconds of courage idea is the difference between starting and getting stuck, and that's whether it's in your professional life or your relationship with your partner or your kids, and even just in a day-to-day way. The thing that I really love about 10 Seconds of Courage is how often people say to me, oh, I used it to go to the dentist this morning. Or I used it to speak up in a meeting at work because I thought people would laugh at me, or, I even had a lady contact me recently saying, I just had a baby, and guess what I thought about the whole delivery. It's amazing how it's great for people to have a little tool to go through in their mind when things get tough, because we all have situations in life that require a bit of courage and resilience to overcome obstacles. And
absolutely, yes. I mean, definitely the thing with the dentist, that's me. I've just got to pick up that phone and make the appointment.
That's just it, isn't it?
Yes.
There's sometimes it just takes that little first burst.
Yeah, yep.
To get you over an obstacle, or just to live a bigger life. There's so many things that I think we talk ourselves out of, where we could try a new hobby, or give that person we met a call to meet up for coffee, and it's hard to move out of your comfort zone.
But have you found over the years too that the actual fear is much worse than the actual situation that you're fearing in the first place?
100%. Absolutely. I was very lucky to be on Weekend Sunrise yesterday on TV, and I put a wooden board in front of one of the hosts, and then Basil. And in martial arts, we break wooden boards with our hands and our feet, not because we like to make firewood, but because it's just a symbol of what you're capable of, and the sort of obstacles that stand in our way. And whether or not the board often comes down to whether or not you believe it will. And I think that's really symbolic of what we go through in life so much. We have these challenges in front of us, and we decide in a matter of seconds often whether or not we're capable of achieving them. But sometimes we don't really give ourselves a fair go. We talk ourselves out of things so quickly. And the beautiful thing, Basil had never done any martial arts before, and he broke the board on live TV, and it was amazing. And he was so stunned, and he said to me afterwards, I can't believe how easy it was. And it's not that doing the thing is easy, it's that
it's the focus.
When you can achieve it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been so lucky in years to find that sort of thing out. Just by putting this 10 Seconds of Courage idea into practice, I found out that having cancer was absolutely no fun, but it wasn't actually often as bad as I thought it would be. And a lot of people are scared of public speaking, and I did my first ever public speaking attempt at the Opera House in front of a couple of thousand people. That was actually much more fun than I imagined it would be. And,
yeah.
And that turned into a whole new career for me as a professional speaker. And I think that, we often have these situations where you have an opportunity to do something, and I didn't think I was going to be amazing at it or anything, but I just thought, after being so dreadfully ill, I just want to give myself a chance to try things. I want to have that little burst of courage to try new things, because you never know what can happen. The point for me has been, if you don't have the first 10 seconds and you don't start, nothing happens.
Yes, and of course that first 10 seconds leads to another 10 seconds, and then another 10 seconds, and
exactly.
Yes, and it can go either way. I mean, if you choose that 10 seconds to go to withdraw, or to go down that path of fear, then you get another 10 seconds of fear, and then another 10 seconds of fear, and that starts to manifest itself as well, of course.
Exactly, and I think people often just end up feeling stuck.
Yes.
Our fear, or use a different word for fear, hesitation, doubt, uncertainty, that creates inaction in most people. And inaction leads to disappointment usually,
yes,
and missed opportunities. And I think what's become so clear to me now is that, to use a cliche, life is short. And I don't want to miss too many opportunities anymore. And there's no guarantee that if you try something, it'll work out well. But the way that I try to look at it now is that what's on the other side of that 10 seconds of courage is either going to be really, really exciting and a good thing, or if it doesn't turn out well, it's going to be an opportunity for growth and just more knowledge, and you can be proud of yourself for at least trying, and not missing out.
Yes. I sort of feel that one of the key things for you was something that your mum told you when you were young as well, about what a girl can do.
Yeah, she gave me a sticker when I was a little kid that said, girls can do anything. And I think it's just one of those messages. I used to see it every day in my bedroom, and it just had a bit of a lasting effect on me. It made me realise that, I could try a male-dominated sport like martial arts, and I was so glad that I did try it because it turned out to be something that I really loved. And the great thing about passing on what I learned in that is that you don't have to be a martial artist to understand it or get something out of it. There's so many principles that I learned in the context of martial arts that are just life experiences. And especially being a little girl, just trying out something that might be quite scary to a lot of people. I think in just giving it a go, I learned that firstly I could do it, and secondly, I found a passion and a hobby in life that gave me far more than I ever could have imagined.
I think that message, or seeing that sticker every day, that in itself is very powerful, because it also goes to show that, we all know that some of us growing up when we were younger had a negative comment made about us that we chose to believe. But that is the key thing, isn't it? We choose to believe it. And of course, if we are told that over and over again, we keep choosing to believe it. But you chose to believe that message, and which is just as powerful as choosing to believe a negative one. So, but it's all the same, though, isn't it? Is that we choose these things. We choose what to believe, and the same with the 10 seconds of courage. We choose to use that in a way to go one way, or we can go the opposite way.
Unfortunately, a lot of the time we don't necessarily make a conscious choice about these things.
Yeah.
We have our own beliefs about ourselves without really ever necessarily putting them out on paper and having a good look about whether or not they're true. So,
and that also came up when your teacher challenged you about your beliefs, about what he asked you what you wanted in life, that it was only then that you realised that you actually had placed limitations on yourself.
Yeah, he asked me, why not you? And, it was an idea. He asked me what I wanted out of my life. And I gave him very standard answers that most people would give. But what I wasn't factoring in was that he's quite a famous man, and he's had these very large achievements in life. So when I told him what I thought I was going to be capable of, he said, well, why can't you achieve the things that I've done? And I didn't have a logical answer. I had the sort of answer in my own mind that most of us would have, but I didn't have a good reason why I couldn't have dreamt bigger for myself.
Yeah.
And that was a great thing. He made me feel really uncomfortable because I couldn't explain why I couldn't expect more of myself. So it made me realise that I'd set a ceiling of what I was capable of achieving, and I didn't really necessarily want that to be the only thing. And it just made me realise that, sometimes it's okay to dream a little bit bigger for yourself, and it's okay to hope for things, because if you don't, no one's going to. No one's going to come along and tell you all of the things that you might be able to do. And they don't have to be wild, ostentatious dreams. They can be simple things. And for me, the perfect example was, being able to publish this book. I had always wanted to write a book, but I had let go of that as being a dream because I just hadn't taken the steps to make it happen as an adult. And, then realising that all it really was going to take was a little bit of courage on my part to start writing and put it forward and ask for the opportunity. And the next thing you know, I've had this really quite life-changing opportunity that just came in little tiny bite-sized steps, those little 10-second steps. And I think looking forward now, I can see how that's what's possible. Everything that everyone's ever achieved in their lives started with one small step of self-belief.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said earlier on, it's not that you think that your life is perfect or that you don't make mistakes or whatever. You went on. You're a successful martial artist, you've achieved great success and still are as a teacher, yet you still had that challenge of the cancer come your way, and so it's just about how you react to different things in life, and you're still living life. It's still very much a journey, of course.
Yeah, and I guess the martial arts principle that really made me see things differently was that idea that you can't have courage without fear. Just because you're worried about doing something doesn't mean you're a big chicken and you won't be able to do it. It just means that sometimes things are scary and they're hard, but that doesn't mean you're weak. It means that you get a chance to be strong. It's an opportunity to be strong.
Yeah.
So practicing that in martial arts gave me an opportunity to practice it in the rest of my life. And when a situation came along, like cancer, I'd already had a few goes at having to face things. And Sensei Benny taught me this idea that he said to me, it doesn't hurt any less if you close your eyes. And that really hit me as well when I got sick. That idea that sometimes you want to pretend something's not happening and turn away from it, but it doesn't get you anywhere good, usually. So, sometimes when things are happening and they're going to be difficult, you're better off just facing them and trying to turn towards them and deal with them head on, even if you can't do it the first 5 times. Just summoning up that courage to try again and just tackle it head on.
And again, coming back down to your 10 seconds of courage, it's usually the thinking of the fear that's making it so much worse than the actual situation.
I can't imagine I can't tell you the number of times I've picked up my phone and looked at it and thought, I've got to make this call, and then put my phone down.
Yeah.
And then thought about it for an hour afterwards, and then, a week's gone by, and how many times have I thought about it since? And, if I'd made the phone call, it probably would have only been 5 minutes out of my day, and then the situation's dealt with. I try to avoid doing that now, and I guess that's what I was saying before. I'm not perfect. I still feel fear and trepidation, hesitation like everybody else, even with the challenges I've been through. I just try to learn as I go along and use the tools that I've been taught, just to live a better life, whether for me that means getting out of my comfort zone or just having a bit more of a pain-free day where I just tackle things head on instead of losing sleep over them.
And I guess too, knowing that you've been through certain situations and that you've been able to, that you have the power to react in a way that is more beneficial to you. When you know that you have choices to react to something, then you feel less controlled by circumstances outside of you.
Yeah, and I mean, we all react the way we react, and no one's perfect, but the best thing about having these tools in your arsenal is that you can change your thinking. So even if you react to something badly, you can always turn around and face it head on and deal with it better, or change your attitude to something that's going to serve you, something that's a bit more positive, or, if you've said or done the wrong thing, you can always turn around and apologise and try to make it right. So yes. I think, working in your own best interest and working in the best interest of your connections with other people and what you want out of your life, you can turn around and go the better way at any point. And it's great to know those things, and it's great to be reminded. And I think the way that I learnt them, there's some funny stories and some pretty devastating stories in the book. But the great thing with that is that they stick. You remember them. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher who took me through all of these different processes in my life and in my training that really made those messages sink in. He didn't just tell me one day, change your thinking. He took me through some challenging life experiences that, meant that I really understood what he was trying to teach me.
Well, you really got angry you really felt angry and hurt quite often too, didn't you? And
he was my teacher, not my friend.
Yes, yeah.
And having said that, I've known Sensei Benny for 20 years, and he's basically like my dad. Like we're very close, and I love him dearly. But I call him Sensei Benny even when he visits my house. He lives in Australia, and he comes over and stays with me every year to teach a series of seminars here. And I always had that respectful relationship with him because I've been very lucky. He didn't want to be just my friend, just someone that I knew. He wanted to teach me, and in order to do that, sometimes the lessons that he had to teach me were very difficult and created a bit of an emotional reaction in me. But
well, one of the things
it's
that
valuable.
one of the things that I've underlined a few things, but one of the things I've underlined in your book is where you're still very much looking for approval from him that you're not really getting. And of course what you learnt from that, and I'm reading out of your book now, I had to stop caring about what he thought so I could focus on my own thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I went through a period when I was quite young with him over a number of years where he wouldn't give me any praise, and I was trying desperately hard to be good at this thing that I loved so much in martial arts. And it reminds me of when you've got a really tough boss at work and they never tell you that you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
So it comes down to whether or not you think you're doing a good job, and the results usually show if you are. So he knew that about me, and he really wanted me to understand that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of what you're doing. It really only matters what you think. So he gave me that lesson the hard way as well, unfortunately.
He certainly did.
He's a tough one. He was an undefeated world champion kickboxer for many decades. So he's a tough guy, but he's also very tender. There are some really lovely moments in the book where he was incredibly kind to me. And
yeah.
I think, I always tell people this thing, sometimes the worst things that happen to you in your life end up being the best things. The things that you think at the time are going to break you end up making you.
Well, the thing was that he absolutely he does absolutely 100% believe in you, but at that time you didn't believe in you. So, and no one can really teach you that. I think that's something that we all learn at different stages in our life. We hear the messages from all different sources all the time that you have to learn to love yourself and find that belief within yourself. It's not until we actually do it that we really get it.
Yeah, and the thing I love the most is how. Because we all know we have to support ourselves, believe in ourselves, love ourselves. Intellectually we all know that, but the thing that people often ask me is, how did you learn it? And that's what I explain to people. And I also give them some really practical tools that they can go away and do in the book and things to try, so that if they don't feel that way yet, they can hopefully learn to do it. And because a lot of those things, confidence and taking good care of yourself, physically, emotionally, etc., they're learnt skills. They're practical, practicable skills, and it's like flexing a muscle. You have to do it multiple times until it becomes stronger.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing. You can learn to do it, and you can change your thinking and your behaviour, in a way that's going to support you and help you to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Some people aren't born that way. I wasn't raised in a problem-free, super supportive family, and I tell those stories as well. I had quite a few challenges where I had to go it alone, and you can use that as an excuse to not have a happy life, or you can use it as, some knowledge building for you in a place where you really learn how to look after yourself and how to grow. And I was very lucky that I had an avenue in martial arts and a good teacher to learn how to, really grow as a person in a number of ways. But it was all a choice. And I was lucky that I had a teacher who would stand there while I messed it up and say, okay, get back up, try again.
Yeah.
And he's still doing that for me, which is fantastic.
And I know you say, use the word lucky, but I don't really believe in luck myself. I mean, even when I read your book, there was an expectation from you that you would find that teacher. I think that you definitely was someone that even when you were young that had certain expectations for yourself, and they came true for you, and that's.
I think we make our own luck.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in it's a miracle.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I think that a lot of us have fateful opportunities. and it's up to you whether or not you make the most of those opportunities. And that usually requires a good amount of hard work, and for that little moment of self-belief to kick in where you think, oh, I am going to pipe up and I'm going to ask that person to teach me, or I'm going to ask them to explain what they meant by that thing they just said. And in my case, since Benny lived in another country, but I knew the first time I met him that he was someone really unique who had so much to teach me and was willing to teach it. So I would literally spend every penny I had when I was very young to go over to America and follow him around with a notepad. And I would write down what he was saying, and I would go back to Australia and try to put it into practice. So, I was very lucky to have a teacher like that.
Yeah.
But I also, worked very, very hard to make sure that I took on the lessons that he was teaching me, and I made sure that I tried to put them into practice. And, I see people miss opportunities all the time. And it makes me feel sad, because there's going to come a time in everybody's life where we look back and, and assess whether or not we've made the most of our opportunities. And, sometimes those opportunities are only for a limited time.
And all they need is 10 seconds of courage too.
Just to pop your hand up,
Yep.
Whether or not the opportunity comes true or not. I'm a big fan of just trying.
Yeah.
And when I had that opportunity to speak at the Opera House, I talked about this 10 seconds of courage idea and how grateful I was to Sensei Benny that what he taught me had gotten me through my life so far, and also through my cancer treatment. And then I took an opportunity at the end of that speech to do a martial arts wooden board break. And it was one of those things where I honestly didn't know if I could do it. I was so weak after my cancer treatment, I couldn't take the lid off a bottle of water. But, there are moments in life where there's no guarantee going to work out, and sometimes you just pop your hand up and you say, I'm willing to try. And from that moment on, I've really been a big believer in the idea that you should just be proud of yourself for giving things a go. Even if they don't work out, there's something really to be said for the honour of trying. I think a lot of people, kind-hearted people, have respect for people who give things a go, even if it doesn't work out. Everybody claps for the person who comes last in the race, hopefully, not just for the winner. So I try to work off that philosophy, and I live it every day. The things that I talk about in the book are things that I practice every single day. Just to try to get the most out of my time here on Earth, and and I like helping people do the same thing. Whether it's asking for a pay rise at work, or I have a few students who are big, burly, tough guys, but we talk a lot about the things that they share with their kids and how they speak to their sons, and instead of taking the easy road, to actually really soften and talk to them properly about emotional stuff. And that can be a really scary, challenging thing for guys to do, and how to be a good example to their children instead of taking the easy road. So,
well, that's where they really learn too, don't they?
Yeah, everybody's scared of different stuff.
Yeah.
What is challenging for one person might be really easy for someone else, and vice versa. So.
Oh, wonderful! Well, congratulations on writing the book, and I'm so glad that you took the step to do it. It's a great read, and so many powerful lessons in there. Nadine Champion, thanks very much for your time today.
I so appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time to read the book.